Guys, we are live on the Hawks Zone Rundown right after the Monday Night Football game with the Seahawks in Detroit. Falling to Detroit 42-29. We're going to quickly gather our thoughts here and break it all down for you guys on the other side.
Well, I'm the best corner in the game.
For this run. Get off me.
DK.
Yes, sir.
Hey, it's John Schneider with the Seattle Seahawks.
And Washington's got away. Leo Wilson with a catch. Gibson, Smith, and Jimbo. The Seahawks are going to hold the NFC Championship.
Every year, the NFL does. Is it going to be another 9-8?
Players who've got to finish something.
They have to fix the offense.
Part of his success and part of
ambition of being the LOB
Want to hear? That's trading DK Metcalf.
Play him aggressive.
This is the Hawks Zone Rundown with Ryan and Bryce.
Guys, welcome back to the Hawks Zone Rundown. Everybody that's tuning in, throw your comments, questions out there. We're going to get to do a little Q&A coming up a little later on the show. Seahawks falling to Detroit tonight, 42-29. A tough game, Bryce, but you know what? A lot of positives that I took out of this game. We're going to break it down as we go on, but one thing I'll touch on real quick, man. We can jump into it right now. I just want to get into some of the positives, man. That offense, once it started rolling, it just looked fluid, and what Grubb was doing, just a sprinkle of this and attacking guys down the field like that it was obvious that they wanted to go to DK early and often and really attack. And then, you know what, having Ken Walker back in the mix, what a difference that makes for this offense. And Geno Smith throwing up some big time yards. It turned into a shootout, and they just had to keep going. But there was a lot of pressure on this offense to keep answering the bell when you had a banged up defense. We'll get to that. But you talk about answering the bell when they needed to, come out of the half, putting a beautiful drive together. He just had a lot of confidence in his offense that we were just going to come out and score. And a couple times that we didn't, obviously the big DK turnover, that looked like we were going to come down and score and tie it up 7-7, 14-point swing, really the difference of the game. And then, the other things we can get into too with that ticky-tack 4th and 3 PI on Tyler Lockett that had nothing to do with the play. And I don't care what anybody says, man, it's different when it's like, okay, hey, it's an obvious JSN push off with the defender that they're going one-on-one and that ball's going to him. I get that. But man, so other than that, like just positives on the offense got me fired up that this team is competitive no matter where they go, especially with the injuries they had on defense, man. What are you seeing? Like, talk about that offense real quick, and then we'll get to some other stuff, man. But what did you like to see? What were you loving on that offense? What did you not like? Just break it down for us.
So for me, like, there were a couple things. I really liked our passing game. That JSN underplay, and then he pitches it off to Charbonnet. Like some of those things that you can see the creativities there. Now you can see the limitations in one aspect that, Ken Walker's stat line, like, again, he rushed for 80 yards and 3 scores, but it was hard to run the ball. Like, we ran these power toss essentially, which is instead of having him run downhill, what I noticed the correction to Seattle's run game is that they would pitch him the ball and then he'd start running downhill. Instead of running like a true toss where he's trying to get outside, they'd run him and they'd pitch it to him and have him attack as like a power or ISO run. And I think that was the correction of, we can't just turn around and hand the ball to Ken or our running backs and have them go straight ahead because there's no push. We have to give them a chance to see a cutback lane and hit it and go, which you saw Ken do in the second half of that game. But I would say my biggest negative is just how hard the running game is to get going right now. Like, that's something that I think we really need to look at here and try and get right, because yes, like, I'm looking at the stats right now, like, we dominated, and I'll bring them up here just on the screen so everyone can kind of see quickly these stats. But like, realistically, man, like we talked about it, Seattle's offense looked good. Like, it didn't look bad. It just looked like there were points of it where it struggled. And that's where, for me, I'm like looking at it and I'm going, okay, where are we missing things here? Like, what's the big thing? So like, when I bring this up right now, we can see it. Seattle won the time of possession by almost 10 minutes. Like, they had the ball 34 minutes out of this game, but like you said earlier, that DK fumble early on, and the fact that our defense was so depleted,
Well,
we
that's it.
couldn't catch up.
No.
And
Yeah.
so I look at that like we ran 78 plays to Detroit's 50. We ran like 28 more plays than they did. And you kind of are wondering, like, we got 516 yards. We averaged 1 yard less per play, which isn't that bad. But I just look at it across the board, and then I go down, and it's like DK, like, this number here is absurd to me on defense for us, that we couldn't get Goff to throw one incompletion all game. But, DK, he's almost a 70% completion guy. He almost throws for 400 yards. There's a lot of things in here to like. I just don't like the fact that, again, we took 3 sacks, which Gino, it should have been probably 6. Like, Gino basically got out of half of those. Like, you
Right.
saw him, like, duck guys and get out. And, like, I said to one guy that I was talking to tonight, I was like, there can't be a question now, in my opinion, about Geno Smith. Like, that needs to stop.
No,
Geno Smith is a top 12 quarterback, and I'd even say maybe top 10 quarterback in this league.
I would say he's easily in the top 10 quarterback.
Yeah,
I think
and
I think
it's
I
not a
think the question.
conversation.
No, I think it was 12 to 15 was a conversation before top 12. I think he's in the top 10 easily. You bring up the offensive line. Jared Goff has a really good offensive line, so and he gets a lot of credit, so you put Geno behind an offensive line like that. Now look, this goes to Ryan Grubb. You mentioned creativity. Well, I feel like he has a game plan going into every game, who he's playing against. You have a guy like Aiden Hutchinson, your line is struggling. So what do? A lot more Pharaoh Brown, a lot more of those tight end sets, and you're fine with that. And as far as the running game is concerned, I mean, I look at it like, that you knew they were going to attack their DBs as much as they can because that secondary is weaker. So they feel like our biggest strength is probably going to be in this passing game. And as much as we talk about that interior, and I get it, like there's a ton of room for improvement, and but I've mentioned before, like, go around, show me a team that doesn't, maybe besides Detroit. But at the same time, we're jumping around a little bit. Much as our defense was banged up on that front, we still there was times where we were getting to Goff a bit. Derek Hall talking about a man amongst boys. Sometimes it looks like, I mean, just manhandling the tackle, and one hand throws Goff to the ground, who is not a small dude. So, there was things, as much as that defense going bang up. I mean, so I just look at the offense, and Tyler Lockett, to me, I think we talked about it with a guy a few weeks back. Let's just stop questioning him. Like, I love having Tyler on this team still. Just knows where to be, has a feel for where to be, and sitting when he needs to sit. Just his route running. He's a veteran guy. He's not going to be a burner anymore. But and then JSN looked great. DK Metcalf, I mean, they have to be talking extensions behind the scene right now. He is showing you why he is your number one guy, and Grubb knows it. He just looking for him anytime it's one-on-one. The ball is getting thrown to DK Metcalf. So I really just like the direction. I think the run game. Look, Ken Walker coming back off the injury. He's been on the shelf for a few weeks. Didn't look too rusty. I just think you're going to see a lot of different looks from Grubb based on, where he sees his weaknesses. And so for me, I'm okay with that. I mean, this offense looked a lot different today. And to me, if you look at it in the 4 games, this looked like the most complete offense out of the first 4.
Yes, I would say we're getting closer. And I have, I was kind of going back with Dan Viens. We were talking a little bit during the game, and he, said, like, how did I feel about Grubb and the run game? And you can see that it's starting to form. But my biggest issue is still that interior, man. Like, Connor Williams, I think, is doing a good job. And again, Connor Williams is also going to only be as good, really, as what his guard play is. And I'm not overly impressed with our guard play, and it's, I think, going to be our Achilles heel. Now, Stone Forsythe, again, we know he has limitations in the run game because of his size and height on leverage. I didn't see enough of a push tonight, and I saw what basically, and and this is my thing, like, I get people want us to run the ball, and we should have been able to run the ball more and so on and so forth, but as an offensive coordinator, I think Ryan Grubb did a good enough job pivoting off of that and having still some tools in his tool belt to be able to use to still create offense. And
Exactly.
the thing I like to see is how they're using JSN, and they're using him on these little option routes out of certain formations. Who was a pleasant surprise to me tonight, and I think is going to get more and more involved in this offense, and someone that
Garner.
I think exactly.
Yeah. No,
AJ
Barn looked good.
Barner, to me, I think he is more of going to be more of a complete tight end than we realize when we draft him. Like, everyone assumed, oh, he's the Pharaoh Brown replacement of the year. We said it. I said it. Watching him now run routes and seeing him move, I am more optimistic he is going to be like a more complete tight end that can block and catch. Something like a Will Disley, Colby Parkinson kind of mesh together, because he moved well. He caught the ball. Like, I know his hurdle was kind of a horrible attempt at trying to hurdle somebody.
That's a new thing. All these guys want to hurdle. When
Right.
as soon as he left his field, I'm like, don't do that. You don't need to
Yeah,
do that.
don't ever do that again. But I liked his route running. I liked
No,
how
he
they
balled.
used him. And I think it adds another dimension to this offense. And I could see him maybe in some of these formations supplanting Pharaoh Brown, and Pharaoh Brown truly becoming the blocking tight end. And they use Fant and Barner in more of a, hey, we're going to run play action and use both of them and release them down the field. Noah Fant had some couple nice catches, but overall, man, I think we have our franchise quarterback. That's what I'm
Dude,
going to say right now.
that's not a question. You and
But
I
it
talked
was a
about that
question. I
last.
know between you and me, it's not. But for the mass public,
Oh
that's what I'm
no, no.
saying right now is you
And
can't
that's what we're
question
trying
this
to get
anymore.
across. That's what we're trying to get across.
Yeah, you cannot question it anymore. He went out, he threw the ball 56 times, completed 70%, almost 70% of them, almost for 400 yards, kept the offense moving, made plays off schedule, kept drives alive. You have to understand how good Geno Smith really is and how good this offense is going to get as the season progresses. Once things get settled in that interior of that offensive line, things are going to pick up. Like, I don't look at Detroit and go, man, we're not even in the same class as Detroit. Like, we can't.
I think we're close. We're really
We're
close.
close. If our D line's there and six
Leo,
of our
man,
defensive
come on.
starters, like, don't forget, we lost Julian Love tonight too, like quarter into the game.
I'll
So,
say, yeah.
like,
No,
it's just,
go ahead.
yeah, I don't know, man. I think we're on a good track here.
I just want to say this before we move on, like as far as the offense is concerned. Like I know what you're saying, but I just look overall 29 points. Okay, I know 2 was a safety, but we talked about the DK turnover. To me, I was just confident that we're going down and scoring a touchdown the way that drive was looking. Even the drive prior to when it got stalled, they had a few nice plays and it just got stalled first drive. So, you got 29 points, take away the Tyler penalty, and then who knows? I mean, you're talking in the 30s easily. Um, and as far as Geno's concerned, like numbers aside, man, just all the things you said, you talk about the poise, you talk about I got to come out and really put this game on my back. Like the defense is not going to the defense isn't the defense that we're going to normally see because of all the injuries. So I got to come out and I got to it's on me. It's on me to execute. And like you said, could have been 6 sacks. He Houdini'd a couple of those. And it was like, oh, no. And then I can't remember. I think he had a beautiful one to JSN. Just slung it like off his back foot. So, like, not only that, those balls, a lot of these balls are pinpoint. The leadership and composure that you're like, why would you want to start over with a guy now? You have a guy that you third year starting has just this leadership and composure when I see him now and balling, making plays on top of everything else. So yeah, like you said, I'm in a full agreement with like let's not even quarterback of the future thing. That's a conversation we're gonna have later on down the road. And it might be further than some people think now. So
Yep.
for me, I want to see DK inked for a Seahawk for life, and I want to see DK extend. And I think that those two things will happen because those guys, you take either of those guys out of this offense, it's just completely different. But yeah, there's just so many good things that I like, man. That like you said, the passing game was great. It was fun to see the creativity, the flow. Man, I just wanted them to keep attacking with DK there because how aggressive they were trying to get with him, and he who's slipped my mind. The DB that was on him majority of the game.
Davis.
Yeah, right. It's just like, dude, it's just the one where DK almost scored that TD. It's like he just burned him, and that's what you see at a DK. And he made another big grab there on the sideline. The first, did you notice like the first 2 plays, DK Metcalf, boom, boom, right?
Well,
Like how
and the
beautiful
thing
is
that's
that?
so great about this is exactly what we talked about when I brought it up in the offseason when Tom
Yeah.
Brady talked about what you
Hmm.
do when you have a number one receiver or a group of receivers like a team like Seattle does. You get them involved early in the game. DK, the minute you went bang bang to him right away, even though one of them was an incompletion,
Yeah.
DK now knows, shit, I got to be on today because I'm getting the ball. Like I am part of the offense today, not waiting until the second, third quarter of a game to be like, oh, yeah, right. You guys remembered. And like, here's the other thing I want to talk about. And this is something you talked about so much this offseason about when people were talking like, hey, let's get rid of DK. Let's
Right.
trade DK. Oh, it's because of his antics. How much has DK acted out this offseason or this season? How much has he thrown his hands up or gotten stupid penalties? How much
Hmm.
do you want to bet that was more, why am I not a part of this offense and helping this team?
Yeah.
Why are you not getting me involved? Let me
Right.
get involved. And it's built up frustration because he's not involved. He's
Exactly.
been involved from day one in the Denver game. Now
Oh,
you see what DK's like when he's invested in, not saying he wasn't before, but when he's actually being used appropriately and correctly, this dude is a baller. You cannot let him walk out of the building next year
no.
or 2 years from now.
Well, I'll say on top of that too, not only is he involved, he's getting a rhythm.
Yeah.
How hard is it if you haven't seen a ball for 3 quarters and, "Oh, wait a second, we gotta call upon you in crunch time," and we've seen that, and he still gets it done, but sometimes, that's a tough thing to do when you haven't even seen a football. Get some rhythm, get him involved, get his hands on a football, and when you do it early, to your point, I agree, he feels involved, so it's like, "I'm a part of this," like, I'm ready to go because I'm a pro receiver, but now, I'm involved early. I feel like, okay, you got me. I'm your number one guy, and let's go. And I'm already seeing a football early on. That just gets me like I don't want to take a play off. And I'm not saying DK's ever taken plays off, but it's natural sometimes. You'll see, I haven't seen a ball three quarters. Maybe I'll jog this one out 70%. And that's not what you want to see, but it's hard, right? When you're not involved. So there's just so many negatives when you don't get a number one guy involved early. And Grubb, I mean, what do you think Grubb was thinking about when he got this job? He sees a guy DK on this roster, and he's already probably before he gets off the plane thinking how he's going to utilize this guy and just licking his chops and salivating and saying, "I got a guy like this to draw plays up for." Like, and we don't want to talk about the past stuff and with our former offensive coordinator, but you just shake your head. You look at the stuff that's going on already this year with DK, and it just makes you shake your head even harder when we had a guy like that in this building who was clueless. It was absolutely clueless, man. So it's just so refreshing. And the other thing I'll just add to it, we'll move on from the offense, but just this team competed tonight, man. And I think this is what you and I, and because we got to everyone, we've said, hey, let's all slow down. This team, first year, everybody, as far as coaching and schemes, they're not going to fire on all cylinders. And the fact that they were missing a ton of guys up front and still competed in this game, a team that, people think is a top 5 team in the NFL in their house, this team competed, and really, there was times even in this early in the fourth quarter, like they had a chance to win, like it was anyone's game still. So you felt confident with that. So that was a lot of good things to take away from it, man. Defense, dude, like what can you say? Injuries galore. Injuries galore. I mean, it's kind of what we expected. They have a good running game. They have a good offensive line, man. Like, what can you say there? It's just one of those things where you're like, you know what? Let Leonard and everybody else that maybe was close to coming back, let them rest another week. Get ready for the stretch of 3 games at 11 games. That's going to be hard enough
Yeah.
to deal with.
No, I agree. And I look like we played New York this week coming up. But what I'll say is our defense, like, that's a hard thing to overcome. Like, it's not like we were going in and we were playing Carolina. I think we
Right.
go in and play Carolina. Different story with missing these starters. But you're going and playing a team last year that was a couple plays away from beating the 49ers to go to the Super Bowl.
Right.
And the one thing is what do the Lions do well? They run the ball really well. Like, they have that offensive line. And yes, I guess they were missing their center, but they weren't missing enough pieces up front for it really to be that big of a difference. And they ran the ball down our throat for a majority of that game and could control the clock and can control the possessions. And we lose Julian Love, which I know some people look at it and be like, well, Seattle secondary. Like, Julian Love went out relatively midway through that first half kind of issue, and they said, oh, he's not going to come back with a thigh injury. So we know he probably got a really bad Charlie horse or something. But he's that communicator in that secondary for Mike McDonald. And so I think a lot of what he does is help Dodson with getting fit set up for plays and stuff like that for the run scheme and everything. And you saw as he went out, there were more holes. You could see that Kobe Bryant or Kayvon Wallace back there isn't the same communicator with Jenkins. And there were guys running open. And, again, I am not so like, I don't look at this and I'm like, oh man, there's so many issues. Like, if this had been, we'll put into context, if you had Pete Carroll back, Clint Hurt, Shane Waldron, and this is the outcome, do we have the same kind of optimistic outlook? No, we don't. We go, shit, things need to change. We've got all these issues, all this kind of stuff. The fact now that you see what this team can do, the fact that they can still compete, the fact that there were a couple penalties that really, shouldn't have been penalties or should have been penalties, whatever you want to say, you don't look at this team and go, yeah, there's so many issues. We need to fix them. Like, it's so broken. You look at this team and you go, they've got fight. They've got grit to them. They're going to be a team to be reckoned with, and they're getting stronger. And these guys see that. Like, Gino, even in his postgame, said, you know what? Adversity in the beginning of the year is a good thing. They've got a little taste of it now. They're not perfect. They've got to come back and work. And I think they're going to. I think you're going to see a pissed off team play the New York Giants at home. And I think it's going to be quite the thrashing when they play the Giants at home in a week here.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that Giants game, and you and I are going to preview that game coming up in a week. But yeah, I agree, man. I just think that's what you saw. The biggest thing is it was competitive, and you're like, you can see that there was just so many positives coming out of this loss. It didn't feel like a Pete Carroll not throwing shade, but obviously the last few years, if this was the score and the whole running down the throat, I mean, there was just so many guys out, man. I mean, that would have been the thing if you had everybody or majority of the dudes healthy, like the same guys you were rolling out last week, and this happened, maybe a little more concerning. But you had so many backups playing that. And like you said, Julian Love, quarterback of that secondary, that it's more than just his play on the field when he exits the game. So that was another big thing. But I think it's one of those things where you weren't worried. It wasn't like, oh man. I mean, and the other big thing is because you got a guy like Mike McDonald running the helm, and with that defensive mind that you're like, you're not going to see that kind of stuff. Even if you have guys out, I think later in the year, you wouldn't. Like, some of these guys are going to have more experience who, if you had to roll those same backups out there. I just think it was different, man. Like, you were just like, you had faith that this team's growing and things will be fine. And I agree. They're going to be pissed coming home to Lumen. I think they're, if that offense comes out and does 70% of what they did today, the Giants are in trouble. Like, that's the thing I'm excited about. I'm not really even too concerned what I saw defensively because of the injuries. I think what I saw on the offense, the fight, the will, were okay. They're scoring, we're going to come answer. Okay, they scored, we're going to come back and answer. That is something that was different than what you've seen the last few years. And yeah, I can't say enough about Geno Smith, though. Like, I know we kind of go on about him, but I just think this guy finally deserves, like, more praise. He is playing just as well as anybody, man. I mean, he looks good. He looks really, really good. So for me, man, it's just like, he just deserves it, because to me, he just looks right now the ultimate leader. I don't know if it's just because it's his third year and or it's just like, this Grubb system, like we talked about a lot in the offseason. Should they go out and get a guy like Michael Penix? Well, you know what? Geno Smith's kind of like the right-handed version, and Ryan Grubb was the offensive coordinator with Michael Penix. But you also have a guy that's been in this league for a long time and knows how to play the quarterback position in the NFL. So why would you go get this guy? And now now it's kind of coming on display of what, okay, you know what? Yeah, this guy is fitting this system really nicely as well. So I think it's a nice little combination.
You know, it's funny, I'm on Twitter here at the same time we do our show, so I can pick up anything from the press conferences. And sometimes I laugh at the national media.
Oh,
It
dude.
makes me wonder if they actually watch the games or if they actually look into what's going on with the teams. Because you got a guy like Greg Rosenthal here, and he's a pretty respected NFL guy. Goes a bad sign that Geno is playing nearly perfect, and the Seahawks are still getting rocked.
Yeah,
Do
did
you
you see
not
the injury
understand that
report?
our defense is like completely gutted? 6
Mm,
defensive starters out of the 11 are out of the lineup. Like,
no,
and it's those kind of comments that you get where you're just like, are you really watching the game, or are you just throwing something out there to create a controversy? And again, this narrative, oh, Gino can do whatever, but there's still issues. Like, no, like, this team's gutted. This is going to be an issue tonight. So why are you doing shit like that? And it boggles my mind why people do it. But like, I look here, like Jonathan Hankins, he comes out, they had him at the press conference, and he goes, we couldn't stop them. Not Seahawks football. We
right,
didn't hold up our own end. We're going to bounce back from this. That's the accountability that has been missing from this team in a lot of ways. And I think it's something that, we're going to see come out. I don't think we're going to see it out where before we've seen it and gone with Pete Carroll. Like, are they going to bounce back in the
right.
last few years? Are they going to actually be able to come back from this? Instead, we're seeing there's an accountability factor to this. And, two guys that I'll say, we talked about AJ Barner as one of them. Another guy that impressed me tonight, Jake Bobo. Jake
Jake
Bobo
played
makes
great.
great catches tonight. That one where he's fallen down at the end zone and gets back up and snags that ball for a first down. That was awesome. Like,
Can
that's
we
kind
can
of
we
what
talk
the
about
role
that
for.
Ken Walker acrobatic
Oh, that was
WWE
ridiculous. I know, right?
suplex into another suplex into a
Flip off and go run.
you mentioned Bobo. Was there anyone there that didn't make a great play on the offense today? Like, seriously, was there anyone that didn't make a great play?
I don't think so. I think
That
everyone had their
everyone
moment.
I didn't see really any drops. Everybody made like the Noah Fant went up and got smashed when they there's another example of what a stupid spot. Clearly in front of the ref, and then the replay, whatever, they got the spot right and gave Noah the first down, right? But like, just everybody was making big plays. DK, like you mentioned, Bobo, Barner, Tyler's being Tyler, JSN making grabs, Ken with some beautiful runs. That's what just got you excited today. It was like everybody. It was like this team was prepared as far as an offense. Just, hey, it's time to take that next step. Put it together. They've probably been pissed off thinking, hey, we have not had a complete game. But, like when we talked in our pregame, having Ken back would be a huge boost. They got him back, and you can see the difference in, your number one and your number two.
Mhm.
And I like Zach. Zach's a great guy. He's a change of pace, and he's a hard ass runner. But Ken's different, and he's a top back in this
Yep.
league. So having him back healthy, man, it just gives you a little more confidence. And I get it as far as like, but I feel like having a guy like Ryan Grubb that says, okay, this is what we can do right now, and this is what we can't do. It's just different. It's not like, man, it was just I drawn a script up, and this is how we're going to start the game, and I'm going to have a nice looking open and drive. But now I don't know how to adapt to anything else, and this is just kind of how I'm going to be the rest of the game. And he's not like that. He's adapting as the game continues. It's not even halftime adjustments. It's in game. What did we do last drive? Let's completely mix it up. Man, it was like it was so beautiful how that, like you mentioned early in the show, that JSN to Charbonnet, like that was drawn up. And it was
Yeah, it
just
wasn't a
something else
flimsy, "Oh, I'm
no,
hoping this is gonna work."
it was something else in the bag that they've practiced, and it was like, man, that was cool because it was you looked at the situation when he pulled it out of his hat, and I think it was a third and really long, and it was just like it was awesome. And then it's like Ryan Grubb is going to have no problem continuing on as an offensive coordinator in the NFL here. All the always he's coming from college football, and all this other kind of stuff. And you're like, man, football is football at the end of the day. And if this guy can run up an offense fluidly, he'll figure it out. And he looks good early on, man. And so he's only going to get better as well,
So it's funny. You look at, like, just so everyone again understands who is out tonight.
Right.
No Leonard Williams, no Brian Murphy, no Boy Mafe, no Chenna, no Jerome Baker, and no Julian Love. Like, that is not something that's just scoffed at. That is 6 defensive starters missing from your lineup. And I
Well,
guess
let me ask you something real quick. I want to ask you this. And out of those guys, how many of those guys are like potential Pro Bowl dudes too? We're not just talking about stars that you're throwing out there because you got nobody else that can start. These are legit all pro dudes.
Yep. These guys would all probably be guys at this point, like the way Leonard's played, the way Boye's played, the way Julian's played. Those 3 for sure for me are guys that would be Pro Bowl conversation guys. And Byron Murphy's
Chen, if he's healthy.
If he's healthy, right. So, the only one out of that group that I'd say, yes, Jerome Baker makes a difference, but I don't know if it's as huge of a difference as, say, like like him to Tyrese Knight. But there's enough of a drop off. But the D lines where we lost this battle tonight, I think in a lot of ways, we didn't
100%.
get the push or anything. You're asking Jaron Reed, who's been kind of rotating lately, to play more snaps, and you didn't have, the one thing, you listened to when Mike McDonald was in the preseason stuff. He talked greatly about versatility and being able to utilize from different spots. You don't have that flexibility with Leonard Williams and Byron Murphy and Boy Mafe and Chenna out and all those guys, because now Draymond Jones has to play a different role and Jaron's got to play a different role. And you have to bring Miles Adam into the picture and Jonathan Hankins. And it just makes everything so much more difficult. And the O-line, I think, I'm just going to go back to this point on it. It's still a work in progress, but Christian Haynes looked a little bit better tonight. Anthony Bradford, 0 penalties committed. That's a good step in the right direction. Like, overall, I think I would say the weakest player tonight probably for that offensive line was Stone Forsythe, but that's something we kind of expect. We're on our 3rd string tackle.
And we're okay with that, right? 3rd stringer.
Yeah, so you're expecting that if we can get George Fant back in the next couple of weeks here, maybe Abe Lucas at some point, but from what Brady Henderson's been saying, it's like they've got their own timetable for him internally in the building that they're not releasing. So who knows when he could be back?
What's your take real quick on Abe, man? Since we're talking about that right now, I know you and I think and I think it was Dan. We were kind of thrown out there. You and I were like, man, if he plays another snap, like that's kind of bonus. What are you still feeling like that? Or are you feeling like, hey, man, it's just time to look for into the future, as far as like you need to at least address that in the offseason as far as maybe draft's concerned and look for another young guy? Or are you still thinking, hey, I still think this guy, because he hasn't gotten sent away to a bunch of different specialists. I mean, what are your thoughts? Because it feels like it's the same thing as far as updates.
So what I think, so this is just pure speculation. I think he had a patellar tendon injury. And I think he didn't have the complete tear like when Jimmy Graham did it or when Will Dissly did it, where you knew like, hey, this is going to be a long process. I think what potentially happened is maybe he had like a partial tear or some sort of damage there. And that's why it's taken so long to have the surgery, this whole process to come back, is they didn't want to push anything. I think there's a conversation to be had when he comes back. When he comes back and we see what he looks like on the field, I think there's a conversation to be had about, okay, what does that future look like? If he comes back and he's back to being rookie Abe Lucas and he's not missing starts or anything like that down the stretch after he comes back, I think there's a conversation to be had. Hey, we can let Mike Jarrell develop. We can go that path. If he comes back and he's like what he was last year, where he's in and out of the lineup constantly, constantly flipping him with George Fant, he can't play full games, then I think you're having the conversation you just brought up, which is, okay, we need to look to the future. We need to draft somebody, because if this thing totally craps out, we can't be left with nothing. And so I think that's where that conversation will be, is once he starts playing again, where is he at and what does he look like? So I think it'll be kind of an interesting conversation, and one that I'm kind of intrigued to see when it does happen. How does that, play out and everything going forward? But You know, this is the one thing I'll say about this before we get into some of the questions that are going into our chat right now, and everyone get
Yeah.
questions in there. We'll answer them.
Yeah.
I'm going to pose this question to you though. This morning, going into this game, how do you feel in regards? How did you feel in regards to this team to now after this game? Are you more excited? Are you feeling better about them, or are you feeling worse?
I'm feeling better. Like, so, because okay, you know the guys that were out, right? You knew,
Yep.
okay, this is going to be definitely an issue on the defensive side of the ball. I can't. You mentioned no penalties on Bradford, right? And there's a positive, right? Like, is this line? This is the thing that maybe they're hanging their hats on. Is just the only thing we have right now is chemistry. So let's try to get these five guys working together as best we can. No penalties is a good start. The passing game looked incredible. We talked about Geno Smith most of the show already. Just the way just how fluid this offense was looking, how many guys got involved. My confidence in the offense today just got a lot better. I feel like we can go home and take care of business against the teams we're supposed to take care of business against, like the Giants. I feel more confident going against even a team like the Niners because I know we're going to get those boys back in the middle, that D line and Mafe on the edge and whoever else, the entire defense that was out tonight. So I just so yeah, simply answering it compared to this morning, I was confident. I mean, I obviously, going back to the pre-game show, I took the Hawks winning a tight game 26-24. But again, that prediction was put out before I knew how many guys were going to be out. We still thought maybe there was a chance that both Murphy and Leonard were playing. So once all those guys were out, I obviously knew that they were going to be underdogs in this game. But how they competed and just kept staying in this game and just kept fighting, like, how can you not feel better about this squad as a whole? So yeah, I'm if you asked me 2 months ago, how would this team look week 4? I don't know if I'd feel like this offense would look this good as far as that passing game. Man, I'm excited to see them just put it on New York next week at Lumen.
Yeah, no, I would say like going into the game, I knew I picked them to lose because I
Yeah,
just figured we had way too many injuries, way too many things to overcome. I didn't think I'd feel this positive coming out of this game and going, I feel better about this team now this evening than I did in the morning. And, we're going to hear the national guys go, oh, well, the Seahawks are who we thought they were. Look at Detroit. They kicked the crap out of them.
41 points. Yeah,
Yeah, exactly. 42 points to 29. But if
for 42.
you
Yeah.
really watch this game and look at it, I look at a situation where I go, okay, let's see these two teams play again in, say, the playoffs. And Seattle's got all their dudes back healthy and whatnot and have a whole season of gelling together and playing a Detroit team that right now, I think Detroit's at the best they're going to be is
I agree.
late last year and this year. So for them, it's only going to be a situation they're going to lose guys. Guys are going to want to get paid. Seattle's a young ascending team, and that's the one thing I think we haven't been able to say in a while. They are a young ascending team, not
Yeah.
descending team.
Yeah.
But let's get to some of these questions we've got in here and
Yeah, let's do it.
comments. So we've got Daryl Chapman, sorry, says, I'm proud of this team. I feel better about this team now than yesterday. Missing 6 starters on defense with refs that bad, I can't even be mad. That's literally what we've been saying the whole night, Daryl, is that this team looks a lot better than what we thought, and you can't be that mad at the situation. If you are, maybe throw your comment in here if you are pissed off about how the Seahawks played, and we'll have a conversation about it. But
Guys, get your
Gary
comments
comes,
in. Did hold on one sec? Did he mention the refs at the end?
yes, and how bad they were.
Let's just touch on that real quick.
Sure.
Real quick. Okay, so before we get to get because to me there was a couple crucial ones. The Tyler Lockett
Yep.
one was brutal. Did really no effect on. That's one of those ones where you just keep the flag in your pocket, man.
Yep.
And then
100%.
so okay, if you're gonna call that, okay. But then when you had the free play and the guy is mauling DK Metcalf in the end zone and you're what 3 feet away from the play, man. And let's talk about DK's composure on that. As far as you're getting mauled, and he kind of goes up the refs has a conversation. That's a different DK. And you want to talk about the cornerback on Detroit losing it on the officials. Going back, why wasn't that not a 15-yard penalty? Makes contact with the official, then his teammates get him out
Mhm.
there, goes back in his grill, and it's like, okay, so now you're sending the message that everybody can just go in your face and just lose their shit every time that they don't like a call. When, by the way, it was an obvious penalty, right? So I just thought those two things were pretty brutal, and I think, but again, I don't like to talk about the refs too much. I just thought it was like, you know what? Maybe we're in Detroit. We want this team to be a top 5 team. There that comes into play, and that's when that's why you can't leave it up to the officiating sometimes, which they didn't. It was just their defense missed so many starts. But I mean, touch on those penalties. Talk about the Tyler one real quick, man. What is that one where you just let it go? Like if you're an official, you just let that one
Yeah.
go.
Like, I could see it if Tyler had come out and actually, like, engaged to block,
Yeah,
then you have more of a conversation, but you can't tell me that a guy like Tyler there who might be trying to run a vertical route is blocking anybody. Like, what? If he stands there and throws his arms around a little bit like he's gonna cut, the flag stays in your pocket? Like, give me a break. Like,
yeah,
at that point in the game with how crucial
crucial
that
too.
was,
Yeah,
you can't throw that ticky-tacky of a call. The one for me now, looking back over and over again, is DK's two-pointer that should have been reviewed by the league.
right. You and I were
Is
texting
so
back and forth there.
yeah, so I watched it and I slowed it down, and there's a bunch of photos now, and there's a whole bunch of people saying how the NFL botched that and the refs did, but DK's right foot hits inbounds. He maintains possession,
And
and then
knee.
his shin to his knee is inbounds as he
Exactly.
slides out. That is 2 feet. That is the 2 feet rule right there in possession. That should have been 2 points. Again, that play, the Tyler play,
Well,
especially
why
because
why wasn't that looked at though? That's the whole thing. It's one thing
so
to
the
say,
only
okay,
reason I can think that it wasn't looked at is because the ref there did not call it a scoring play. So because if it's deemed a scoring play and they call it 2 points, they'll review it. If they
right.
call it incomplete, it requires a challenge. And that's where the NFL screwed up. It should have
Yeah.
just been an instant review on that.
Or
And
instant,
again,
that's where the officials got to say, hey, you got to throw your arms up and you have to say
just
that's a
throw it
that's a
up. And
that's a
then if it's
score.
not, it's not. And that's where the NFL and these refs keep screwing up with these ticky-tacky ones where they try to be right on the field.
And when you don't need
Throw
to
your
be.
hands up,
You
say it's
don't
a two.
need to be.
Yeah. Throw your hands up, say it's a touchdown or a 2-point conversion. If the command center comes in and overrules you because they have multiple angles of it and they go, hey, you know what? Yeah, his foot just wasn't in or he was bobbling the ball, then you know what? It comes out and it goes incomplete. You don't lose any sweat over it. But this type of shit where you're missing the call and it's affecting a game, that's going to cause more problems in the long run.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, look, we're not saying that's the reason we lost,
No,
but yeah,
100%.
but
The
like you
Tyler
said,
one had more to
the
do with, I
Tyler
think,
one, but it
yeah,
was crucial because you
it
felt
was because
like
they would have
every
gone down the
time.
field and potentially tied.
And it was a first down, right? And you felt like the way this offense was rolling just felt like it was well oiled, that they were going to come down and score. You felt like they were going to come down and score every time they had the ball. So, why would you think any different there? I just think that was one of those things where it was like, you know what? Let's not make this game as close as it needs to be, because I think Seattle, you score there. This is anyone's game still. And when that happened, it's 4th and 13. You don't even get a chance to go for it now. You have to punt the football. And in that situation, when it was 3rd and 3, Seattle's sitting there like, well, we have 2 plays to convert a first down, right? So the refs really essentially took that away from them, right? They didn't even allow them to run another play. So that was even the more crucial thing. It's one thing to say, okay, I'm gonna make this call, which was a bad call on like 2nd down, but you're just essentially saying I'm just now you don't even have a chance to convert a first, right? So that's what made it even more crucial of a call, in my opinion.
No, 100%. Like, that's a call you just keep in your pocket. But again, you can't play the game without the refs. Yes, they impacted the game, but there were other things that, like we said, that caused Seattle to lose this game. But here's a couple more comments and stuff in here. Here's Gary, one of our guys that comments regularly on the show. Gary says, offense was really good tonight. O-line played its best game yet this season. I can't argue with them. They really did. Like, they started to get, there's still some issues there, Gary, with that O-line and that interior, but you can see progress is being made. They're getting better as the season goes. Um, you know, this is the other one from Gary that he put in here that I kind of wanted to talk about. He goes, this was the worst defensive performance this season, but a lot was due to injuries, yet the offense kept us in the game and never gave up. Love the attitude of this team. How would you feel if Shane Waldron was still our offensive coordinator right now? Do you think this game we would have even got 29 points? I think we would have been lucky to get 17.
No, I feel like, yeah. I mean, you know how I feel about Shane Waldron. I think if Shane Waldron was still our offensive coordinator, this team just wouldn't be taking any new steps. It would be stuck where
Yep.
they've been stuck at, and that's just because he's not a good offensive coordinator. I mean, look, it was no more evident than I think when Jackson Smith and Jigba was on some show and they asked him about Shane, and he was lost for words. It was like, okay, I can't really say anything. I don't really want to say anything bad about this guy, but he was terrible. So it was like, just, it's not a bad thing, and there's nothing wrong with guys like us or other people saying this guy's bad at being an OC, because you know what, they have a job. There's only so many of these OC jobs in the world. You get paid very, very well to be one of them. He was terrible, dude. So if Shane was still in this building, I would probably be like feeling like I have been the last few years as a Seahawks fan. Like, just, we are stuck in mediocrity. There's no creativity. DK Metcalf, everybody knows probably what he's going to do. And there would just be vanilla everything. And then you come out and you see all the different things they were doing on offense today. And you were just like, man, this is exciting. Like, it makes you be like, even though they lost, and it's tough as a fan. You want to win every game, but you say, what can we take out of these losses? This is a game where you definitely want to go back and watch some of this offense and just see
Oh,
how
100%.
who was involved, who was moving the ball. There's just so many things that you watch it. We come on this show right now, live reaction. We're just freelancing a lot of things as far as our emotions, how we're feeling. But as far as breaking it down, there's just so many things that you can't even remember, because there were so many good things that from so many individual efforts that were great. I mean, even Ken coming off what he hasn't played since week 1 on an oblique injury, just looked explosive. Coming around the edge and hitting it in the next gear, just putting it into different gears and hitting the holes and just looked good. And I can't say enough about DK. I can't say enough about the whole receiving core. Like, guys, you brought it, man. The tight ends contributed. AJ Barner contributed in the passing game. Noah Fant, some nice grabs. It was just really, really nice to see, man. It was just so many dudes involved. And so many dudes involved, even and DK still having a ton of yards. So that says something right there, that now you're an opposing team. Like, say that you're the Giants, watch this offense. What's your game plan going against the Seattle offense? Because I feel like they can just do so many different things to you. Like we've mentioned, okay, if you're going to stop the run, well, guess what? We got 3 dynamic receivers. Okay, maybe you're a little better in the secondary. Well, we got Ken Walker, and we have Zach Charbonnet, and we have Geno Smith back there. Geno's moving with his legs a little bit too. How many times did you see Geno get out there and run a little bit today, and
Oh,
just be
exactly.
like, it was just like, okay, it's not there. It was, the decisions were made. It wasn't
Yeah.
hesitant. It was like, I'm hitting it, I'm going. Like, that was nice to see. It wasn't like there was no indecisiveness from Geno.
Yes.
It was like, okay, I Houdini'd a couple times and I'm gonna get out, and my eyes are downfield, or I Houdini'd and I'm hitting it. There was none
Yeah.
of this, oh, I don't know what to do. And that was another positive from me too. So yeah, man. I mean, yeah, it's an easy answer. It's just, I'm fired up with Ryan Grubb. I just am. It just feels like he's as advertised. And put anybody with questions about, oh, we got this guy coming from the college game of the pros. He is answering any questions people might have. And the other thing is, it's refreshing to see a new face in the OC position, not some
Mhm.
guy that, let's see. Sean McVay is a good coach, and they're a good offense. Who can we steal out of there? Shane Waldron, yeah, he might work. It's like, no, this guy went out and recruited a guy that he met, had a good feeling about. Obviously, dynamic guy. We've seen it from what he's done in college. So I'm ecstatic about moving forward in the season. Like you said, this is the path that we thought was going to happen. There's going to be some learning. Like Gino said, there's going to be some adversity, and that's when you're going to want some of that. They're going back and they're saying that we're going to learn a lot from this. It's a big learning game for these guys, and it's going to be a good week of practice getting ready and getting healthy.
Yeah, exactly. It's going to be a lot of those things, but just a couple of things here. So, like in tonight's loss, Seahawks PR on Twitter put this out, which is their, insider scoop thing. But basically, Geno set the single season franchise record for passing attempts. He also completed the second most passes in a game, which is 38.
Yeah.
And threw for a career high 395 for yards. So there you go for Geno.
Yeah.
So almost 400 yards. He was 5 off of it. And then with his 7-catch, 100-yard and 4-yard performance, DK Metcalf became the first player in franchise history with 3 consecutive 100-yard games.
Wow.
So there you go. So like there's things that are being done that you maybe not are seeing, but it's going to be very interesting to see how this offense continues to gel. Now, Grubb's still got to do some work with this run game. Like, I love what he's doing in the pass game, but we need that run game to be more consistent.
Right.
And I think that if we can get the play action going more for Geno, it'll be even more dynamic of an offense. It's really interesting because you talk about Waldron and we talk about, just the vast difference between the two. The fact that players at the Bears, I don't know if you read this over the weekend, but players on the Bears had to go to Waldron and say, we need you to be more aggressive as an offensive coordinator. Like, your rookie quarterback was one of those guys being like, let's be more aggressive. And it's like, how are you being told that when this is your second stint and you again got a plethora of weapons and you're still being told you need to be more aggressive? Like, that is a death call as an offensive coordinator, saying you're not being as aggressive. Like, that doesn't mean all the time, but you got to have some aggression in you as an OC to, like, we're going to go get this with this explosive play.
Well, I mean, is it safe to say that just he's not fit for the role? I mean,
I don't think he is.
And let's talk about, and we brought this up a couple weeks back, about people do not, like you said, talk about national media, right? Do these national media guys watch the game? They don't know. Of course, they don't pay attention to Seattle. They know who DK Metcalf is. They know who Geno Smith is. You think they know everything that's going on that D line, everything? No, they don't care. They just want the national headlines, all this kind of stuff. So, and especially being up in the Pacific Northwest, things get lost here. So Shane Waldron, if you're the Chicago Bears, you're still thinking Shane Waldron and Sean McVay. I feel like that if Shane didn't have that tree of Sean, I think that's a big thing. So how much did you really focus on Seattle's offense? Or you probably saw some numbers and you said, you know what, they weren't too bad with all things considered. Geno Smith, the offense, but we watched the games, and that's the difference. And you see Shane, and then look what's happened so early in Chicago. Shane, we need you to be more aggressive. Well, guys, here's the thing: it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen because he just doesn't know how to do it. I mean, we were banging our freaking heads. You got a guy. Listen, sorry, I don't care what anyone says. You don't have a receiver over there like we do at DK Metcalf, and you can't even get that guy involved. What's Ryan Grubb doing earlier? You just brought up numbers right now with Geno and DK. Is that a coincidence that now all of a sudden DK's had how many 100-yard games in a row? Geno just posts up the most yards. And it's not like these are garbage numbers, like it's garbage time stuff. This is still, they were in the game, they were competitive, they had a game plan, they were attacking and talking about aggressive downfield stuff. That's what's happening here with Ryan Grubb. Shane Waldron, man, he's just not the guy. And I don't think I think it'll be a short stint for him if it continues, because you have a guy like Caleb Williams that you drafted number 1 overall, and you have high hopes for that guy. So if things don't change there, I think he could be a one and done. And that's not to say that just becomes a mess, because then now he has to have a new offensive coordinator. The big mistake was Chicago even hiring the dude. I mean, you and I were shocked when he got that job so quickly. I mean, it was just, I feel like it was weeks after he got let go. All of a sudden he lands an OC job. Yeah, that must be pretty nice. So, yeah, I mean, the Bears, man, just if anybody who's follows the Bears that chimes in here once in a while, I mean, sorry, man, that's just what you're going to get.
So just another one here from Gary. Agrees with us in a lot of ways. This is just the 4th game, and already the difference in the last few seasons in regards to the offense is huge, or I think as a team as a whole. And then, One guy I'll be interested to look at the PFF grades and grades overall next gen stats and what is actually Devin Witherspoon. I don't think he had a great game tonight.
I agree with you.
Tonight, like he got burnt, it looked like on that one touchdown when it was 20-28, I think here. And I think it was Williams that burnt him for it. It was an over route. I don't think Witherspoon was in his coverage, but he ran through his zone and kind of got turned around. I didn't see the same Witherspoon tonight. And I don't know if that's because Julian Love went out and he couldn't feel as freely to play the way he normally does because Julian's not there, making sure everything's in check. But it'll
I
be
mean,
interesting to see
I love when he came off that the block and just manhandled that guy. That was nice.
Yes,
But
there were
what do you
still
think?
moments like that.
I feel like sometimes I want to get your take on this. Sometimes when they dial up a blitz for him, right, and he's coming
Mhm.
off there, I feel like he gets there sometimes, but then if he runs into any contact, it's I don't know. He did it a couple times tonight. I just felt like it's just off a little bit, and I'm not sure what it is, but I agree. He didn't have a great game. Um, Still love the guy, and you and I know that he's gonna ball, but it just there was something about it because you notice it and I notice it, and yeah, it was interesting to take note on that.
Yeah, man. So overall, kind of excited to see where this team goes, man. Like it should be interesting seeing how they next two games. You got the Giants and we got the 49ers, man. It's going to be a little interesting stretch here. Are we going 5-1 to play, or sorry, 4-1, I should say, to play the 49ers, or are we going to be a 3-2 football team playing the 49ers?
Yeah, well, that's going to be stuff you and I are going to be breaking down coming up in the week here. We're going to have our preview show with the Giants and the Hawks at coming into Lumen Field next Sunday, and so we're gonna have that broken down for you guys. But yeah, I agree, man. I'm just gonna echo it too. It's just you are excited for the future. And whatever happens this season, if they are 4-1, it's just about, and I want to revert back to what we've said all off season. How is this team going to compete? How is this team going to buy in? And how are they going to look in November, in December? Making the playoffs would be awesome, but if they don't, how is it? How are they looking? How are they trending into 2025 and nailing another pretty decent draft? That's what you said. You said it. You touched on it. This is a young team where it's not like, okay, if it's not this year, we're gonna pay a bunch of dudes. Like, we're a young ascending team that has some time here to build this thing up, and I think that today was an example that we're a competitive team, and that's all you can ask for. So yeah, it's just I really think there's just so many positives with this team right now, and I'm excited to excited to get that preview show going with you this week and get ready for next Sunday, man. Get this loss out of the way because L is still an L, even though there's a lot of positives. You still you want to sort of, all right, you know what? Let's learn from it and then get ready to go for the next game. So yeah, man.
It'll be good, but you should let our listeners here know where you got that wicked hat that's on your head there, Ryan.
Yeah, guys, some Hawk Zone swag. Go to hawkzonerundown.com and we got some hats and hoodies and all that stuff. And we're gonna have that posted up on the channel as well coming up. So then you guys can just click the link, go in there and grab yourself some stuff. So yeah, no, it's good, man. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Wrapping it up, guys. Again, if you like what you're seeing and you haven't done it yet, go down, hit the subscribe button and share the video and all that stuff. Just really helps with the channel and just helps us kind of continue on to bring you guys this content that we love bringing. But that's it, man. That's it for us tonight. Hawks losing to Detroit 42-29. But awesome stuff to take away. I'm gonna go back and I'm definitely gonna rewatch some of this, probably most of the game. Just kind of watch that offense roll because like we said, the defense. We know that's gonna get it. They're gonna get healthy and they're gonna take care of business. So, but I want to just kind of just study that offense and just really see what we were doing out there because it was fun to watch it, man. So,
100%, man. I can't wait for our preview show, and I can't wait for next Sunday.
all right, guys. Appreciate everyone kind of chiming in here, going live, and look out for the next pod coming up in a few days. Preview Giants, Hawks. That's it for us tonight. Go Hawks.
Go Hawks.